Right. 3, 2, 1. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning into this session of the Fireside Chat. Today, we actually have Charles Tan, who is a well-known blogger and writer, and he's the owner of Copy and Property. Now, Charles has written about property for many publications in Malaysia, and he occasionally speaks at property events and is a property investor himself. He's owned and he continues to own several properties in different states in Malaysia. And he's traveled to around 20 countries and blogs daily at copyandproperty.com, which is considered to be one of the leading independent property blogs in Malaysia. Welcome, Charles. Thanks so much for coming on board today.
Yeah, it's my honor to be invited. Thanks, Ernest.
Excellent. Charles, just for our viewers and listeners today, can you just share with us a little bit about your property journey so far from when you first started with 0 properties to where you are currently?
Yeah, so I guess many people start in a special way. So for me, some may have heard my story. I started my first property because I was forced to buy a property, right? So at the time, my future father-in-law, who is still my father-in-law today, said indirectly to me that renting a house is not good enough. So he did not say these actual words, but he sort of indirectly told me that. And my wife also said, hey, we need to get a house. So we bought our first property. That was the very, very first property we bought. And we took a long time to decide on that because we have a short of budget. And yet we wanted some place which have a nice kitchen, a nice living room, and 3 rooms, and those kind of requirements, plus a balcony as well. If possible, to have a swimming pool view. By the way, we really got all that in. So we have a house which is 730 square feet with a very sufficient balcony, with a place for us to confine to become a wet kitchen, and we even have a nice living room as well. So I guess that meets all our expectations of the first house, right? But the location was not in any primary location. That was the only way that we could get that kind of property with that kind of price. It was 123,000, by the way. My second property, we were also encouraged, not forced, we were encouraged. So we actually went to see the property and we loved the property. But after some calculations, because it's our second time anyway, so after some calculations, my wife and I decided that it is too high a risk. What if, and what if, and what if? There were so many what ifs. Then we went to see the property for the second time together with our parents, my parents and her parents. And both the parents said, nice place to upgrade. We took that as a cue. We bought the second place, and that was when my property investment journey started. The first home was rented out, and even though Penang doesn't have a good rental yield, but our rental yield was positive from the day one until the day we sold. The reason was very simple. It was a super fully furnished. Just imagine we have stayed there for 4 years. Of course, when we move out, we don't move out everything. So everything was still there. Whatever you think of, down to the forks and spoons and the can opener, everything is there. So the people who come, they are like amazed. How can we provide everything that they need? So that was how we get a positive rental yield right from the beginning. And then the third, yeah.
Sorry, before you go on to the third one, can I just ask you, how young were you when you bought your first one?
25.
So you must have been working for what, 2 to 3 years before that?
Yeah, so I started working when I was 21, right after my degree. Then after 4 years, I bought my first property. Yeah.
Okay. Can I just ask you, based on the monthly installment at that time, the first property,
yeah.
I don't know what the price was, but how much as a percentage of your monthly income was the first property's repayment?
If just myself, probably 25, 30%, if just myself. But because it's shared between me and my wife, so it becomes like a 15 kind of thing. Yeah, so it's very, very manageable. That is on top of me having my car and my wife having her own car. Yeah.
If your then potential father-in-law or not yet father-in-law didn't say that, would you have committed to buy the first one nonetheless?
maybe I would have bought, but probably 1 or 2 years later, yeah, probably, yeah, but maybe not so soon at that time, because the decision to also get married was not such a long-term planning kind of decision. So there was a story behind that we needed to get married at that time. Yeah, nothing to do with pregnancy. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Oh, it's very good, because I think this story is very important, because what I wanted to showcase to the listeners viewing and tuning in today is that buying a property takes a lot of mental arithmetic as well as an emotional connection to make that decision happen. It's not just an emotional thing without considering the budget, and it's not just a budget thing without considering what you're going to do with it after that. So I see that it both happen together very nicely for you.
Yes. Yes.
So
and
can
yeah.
Go ahead. No, I was going to ask you then, what happened with the third property onwards after you disposed the first one?
Yeah. So once you have bought the second property, right? Actually, the third property is going to be quite easy, and the fourth property is going to be quite easy. So I just tell you, 2 other properties that I bought. It need not be the third or fourth, but it gave me the confidence to note that actually I can use rental as one of the strategy. So with that in mind, the next property that I bought, I have the rental strategy in my mind. So I made sure that it could be rented out. Then I purchased the property. In fact, the decision was like 1 day kind of decision, because I understand from my wife's best friend who's staying there that it's very, very easy to rent out. So we bought the unit, which is opposite her condo where we used to stay. And extremely true, we managed to rent it out almost immediately. And after that, I bought another property, which is also near some universities, some malls in Kota Kinabalu, and it was also easily rented out. So after that, the property investment journey became quite smooth, because the focus was on renting. And after a while, then you realize, it's not just the rental income, is also potential capital appreciation as well. Yeah, that happened later on. But I guess what I wanted to say is that the focus should always be on what can you do with the property, not so much of what people say, this one sure will increase in price. I guess that should not be the main decision for you to buy, because if that's the main decision for you to buy, it's no longer investment, it's more like a speculation. Yeah.
Can I just ask you, with regard to buying your number 2 property, you were mentioning just now there were a lot of things that were going through your mind and the what ifs. What was the main thing that was holding you back with regard to the second purchase? How big was the gap for that monthly installment for you to actually have that doubt?
So the price of the second property was double the first property, and it was only 2.5 or 3 years after we bought the first property. So first of all, the down payment, we are still saving like crazy. So we are not that strong financially yet, because it's just like 2.5 years. You just imagine, after you buy the house, you would have spent a lot of money on renovation, right? So those has already happened. But I sort of understand that if I don't buy, right, that property will definitely appreciate, because it's in a very a good price range for that particular size, and furthermore, it's in Penang Island. Yeah, so in the end, yeah, we decided that we should proceed. Yeah, but the price was double, and that was the main reason why we were thinking, should we do it? Because if the price was just 50,000 extra or 100,000, probably it's an easy decision. But it's a 1, 2, 3 versus 250,000 kind of thing. So it's like more than double. Yeah, that was the main.
Was your salary already double by then?
No, my salary would have increased slightly, but definitely not double. In 2.5 years, can't be double. Yeah.
So the price of the property actually appreciated faster than actually your salary. And this is, I think, the central lesson for all of us listening in today, that if you wait for prices to come down and so that you can buy, I think it's going to be very challenging. I think it's always been said, and I think you said it too, Charles, don't wait for property prices to come down and buy and then wait for property prices to come up. I think that's what you always say.
And manage the expectation, because I guess one of the key things that people like me was able to do was that we managed our expectation. So at that time, that so-called dream home, of course, the first property is nowhere near dream home, okay? Nowhere near. But we realized that with our salary, that should be a home at the moment, right? It can be a home sweet home, doesn't need to be dream home, but it can be a home sweet home. And after that, the second property, yeah, I would categorize that as a first dream home that we bought. Yeah.
Can I just ask you, Charles, the first and the second properties, they were all sub-sale?
First one was sub-sale, second one was primary property, new property. Yeah.
Okay. But when you actually talked about making sure that the rental is there, the challenge that I have when I even deal with my own properties that I've purchased, if it is primary market, it's always a guess whether there's going to be a competition to rent out the properties or even demand for the property when it becomes really surrendered. So how do you mitigate that risk?
Yeah, that is totally true, which is why when you buy a property, during my time, right, actually it's very hard to know whether sure can rent or cannot rent. But currently, if you were to ask me, right, you are able to look at all the major property sites, listing sites. Actually, you can already see the typical rental. And from online itself, you already know whether there's a lot of potential people renting the place. And it's not that hard to see. You buy a property for 400,000, you can see the rental is close to 1,500, 1,600. You know the rental, the demand is there. But if you are looking at a 400,000 property and you can see the rental is 900, you do not need to look any further. That means there's no demand. That's why the rental is so low, right? So this is one of the key signs that you need to do your due diligence before you buy. For me at that time, that property, the one in KK, it was a very, very low purchase. So it's 183,000. Today is probably double. But at that time, it was a very easy decision because surrounding the area, that means the condos nearby, the high rise nearby, the rental is typically 1,000, even at that time. So we were not worried. So to us, if I can rent at 900, it is still positive. so if it's all 1,000, I rent at 900, it's still positive. If I rent at 850, it's break even. So yeah, I mean the risk, I try to assess the risk and I decided to just go ahead with it. Yeah.
Charles, is there any of the properties that you own maybe cash flow positive, but in terms of capital appreciation has not moved, or have all the properties, even though maybe cash flow negative, I'm not sure, but but equity has definitely increased? Do you have experience on both sides or one side mainly?
Yeah, so I guess if you look at property investment over 5 years, all of them have capital appreciation. All of them. It's just how much and how high or how low, right? There's capital appreciation. But if you say whether the rental can be a positive from the beginning itself, actually not all properties can do that. But I guess what I'm able to do is that the rental continues to improve as the years pass by, and very soon the rental is able to give me positive rental yield already. So even for example, a condo which I still own in Penang, so in the beginning the rental was 1,003, then it became 1,004, and then it became 1,005, and today is 1,006, right? My break-even point was 1,350, 1,350, and I'll break even. So you can imagine the first year, the second year actually is negative. But the fourth year, yeah, it is around there, and then today is 1,006. So it's positive rental yield already. Yeah. And the price appreciation, about double already. Yeah.
So basically, at the end of the day, the story still holds the same. Cash flow management is super important. So even though you may actually have a negative gearing in the beginning, you need to persevere on and wait for the capital appreciation and also the rental yield to go up. Is that the main story? Great.
So if you listen to some calculations, what they say is that you should be ready to have a 6-month buffer in case you cannot rent out the unit for 6 months. Yeah, that's what some experts say lah. For me, I think right from the beginning you should manage the risk, because if you tell me today that you cannot rent out, I think it's because of the due diligence already, because the information is already available. This is not like 15 years ago, 16 years ago, when all this information were not that easily available. Yeah.
Charles, can I just have a quick thought of yours with regard to those properties that have a huge rebate or have huge rebate structures. What do you think of these kind of properties?
Yeah. So my advice is never look at the percent of the rebate or the percent of the discount or anything to do with the reduction in price. The percentage is not a main consideration. The main consideration will always be look back at the price after discount that they give you. That discounted price, is it already near the market transacted prices? And market transacted prices, come on, today you can get the market transacted prices already, right? Please do not believe if the salesperson were to tell you, don't worry, you know, this is a little bit premium, that's why the prices is a little bit higher. In the current market, there's no such story. It's very hard to justify that kind of story currently. So when the times are good, probably that is doable. But when times are not that good, I think we should really understand what we are buying. Because if after the discount, your price is still above the market, then you are buying a very potentially dangerous property. Just imagine, after the discount, it is not a discount given to you. So if it's a discount given to you alone, fine, go ahead and buy it, right? But it's a discount given to every single buyer in the whole development, which means that assuming the property price was 1 million, right? So now everyone got a price of 780,000, right? Do we seriously think when the property hands the key over to you, the property price will go back to 1 million? Think about it, right? So all these are some of the things that we need to understand before we buy. And the good thing is we can actually do the homework. The price per square feet available information is already available. It's not like, you know, it's hidden or whatever. Probably it's 6 months delay, but it's already available.
Charles, would you advocate a buyer who has some money to say maybe put a 30, 40, 50% down payment to actually mortgage right up to 90%? Or conservatively take only a 50% loan and pay down the mortgage or pay down the down payment fast? So I guess the question is maximum loan or minimize the loan possible? What's your thought?
Yeah. So this question is almost similar to how I would advise whether should you stretch the loan longer or, you know, should you pay as fast as possible, right? It depends on your purpose of your investment. If you believe you don't have any other investment, right? You only have this particular property that you have in mind, nothing else, no stock, nothing else. Go ahead, put in the 50% so that you can use the savings. I mean, the difference in savings versus a 10% versus 50%, that savings you can go and invest, right? However, if you think perhaps I want to buy one more potential property, then if you put 50% inside, that means you cannot touch the property world for quite a while. You can only continue paying for your property, and just note that whatever you pay for the property, right? I told my friend long time ago that there is no difference between staying in a fully paid home and having the money under your bed.
Wow.
And not do anything to it. You get my meaning?
Yeah. So basically, if you don't make money work for you, at the end of the day, it's just going to sit there and not help you at all.
Yes. Because a fully paid home doesn't earn you anything. And you are no different from someone who is sleeping with all the cash under the bed. Actually, there's really no difference. This is a real story, that I told to my friend long time ago. Yeah.
Charles, can I just ask you, if, for instance, you were to continue acquiring properties to begin with, is there a limit as to how many you would want to acquire or one should acquire? Do you have a formula for that?
Yeah, so I guess the most reasonable answer, right, in my mind is that everyone should have at least 2 properties, or if possible, if you have kids, right, then 3 properties. Why do I say that? Is because many times we always think of education savings, right, as a form of savings, say, you know, education fund, whatever. Actually, your education fund can also be in the form of a property, right? And property, even if you look at the prices, increasing very slowly, let's say just following the inflation rate, it is okay. By the time your kids really need the funds to study, you can just sell the property at that time. And I think that is one of the key consideration of how many properties you need to have, right? And then about the question of renting and buying. Actually, to me, right, I feel there's nothing wrong with renting to me, right? And in fact, if I retire, I don't even want to rent, don't want to even own any property. I'm not going to continue paying mortgage, you know. I will sell the properties and I will just take the money and travel, right? I will pay rental, I will pay hotel for hotel rooms. It is fine, you know, but probably I will have a small house to keep all the things. But yeah, that's about it. There's no need for us to maintain, you know, a huge house, a bungalow or whatever after our retirement. I mean, just travel. But then that is just me, right? Probably someone will have a different idea. Yeah. But once you have started the property investment journey, occasionally you will see good deals. When you see good deals and you have already accumulated a few before, you usually will be able to just grab the good deal as well. Yeah. So if you are working, then it may not be, you know, every 2 or 3 years, but you know, every 4 or 5 years is still possible, right? Probably one of the properties that has gained tremendously, have doubled in price, for example, you can sell, take the money, get ready for the next potential purchase. Yeah, that's what has happened, because if you say rely on just salary alone, I think it's going to be hard to even buy above anything above 3 properties. Yeah.
Charles, can I just ask you a question? I know that probably we are in the same age band, so chances are our parents are in the baby boomer generation. Now, the baby boomer generation has a different mindset altogether, which is one property. You want to buy a second one for what? How did you mitigate that? Did you face that? You know, why do you buy one? Okay, you buy the second one, upgrade, I understand, because the kids are there. Third one, fourth one. Wait, what's wrong? Did you face that?
Yes. So my parents, the first time we told them about the second property, first time, my father asked, is there anything wrong with your first property? That's the first question. First question. So the mindset is one property for life, unless, you know, something happens, yeah, then you buy the next property. But I guess my parents have also changed their perception towards property investment, because probably it was also due to my successes in property investment. Therefore, today, whenever they see any property, they are the ones telling me that, hey, this one can buy or not. Hey, this one can buy or not. I mean, they are the ones who also initiate those kind of discussions already. And in fact, I mean, it's like a okay thing already. In fact, if you don't buy more than one property, something is wrong with you. So their mindset is now totally changed. I would say, you know, even though they are from the you know, the generation before, but yeah, it's already changed. Yeah, so they have no issues in us buying an extra property to rent out. In fact, they will encourage us. And in fact, you know, if like you need some renovation money, yeah, they can also fork out some renovation money. Yeah, but yeah, that's some of the things that the mindset has changed now. Yeah.
It reminds me of a story that I also heard before. One of my ex-colleagues, who was very senior in my career many years ago, lived in a very posh penthouse in Bangsa. And we used to go as staff members, we used to go and play tennis in the courts. And then one day we just casually asked, are we still going to play tennis? Oh, no, I moved already. I said, oh, where did you move to? Across the road. Now, across the road from this condo was a very rundown, or a condo that was a bit aged. So I actually thought, you know, was there something wrong? Is he facing financial issues? And he actually said, before you assume that there's a challenge, and I'll tell you why. I can rent for 13,000. I rent out my apartment for 13,000. I go across the road, I rent that condo for only 4. So I don't even need to work. And that struck me. Arbitrage in value was a great way to leverage time. Fantastic story. And the second thing that I wanted to also share with you is that I've been meeting a lot of these younger generation folk. When I casually speak with them, when I say younger generation of 20, 22, 23, the parents are about the 40s, 50s. And what they usually say is that, oh, my parents have enough. I'm going to inherit 1. I'm going to inherit 2. Do you think that this could actually blunt their desire to become homeowners or having a saving attitude? Because my parents are going to give me something. So, okay, buy later, no need to buy now. Do you think that will help? That will happen?
That is already happening. So that is not going to happen in the future. That's already happening. So if we look at those studies, right, which shows a savings rate, actually the savings rate has always been going down. And the only reason why it has not gone down fast enough is because the previous generation people are still around, right? So people like me still around. That's why we still sort of, helping to sustain the savings. But if you look at just the millennials alone, right, the newer generation alone, actually the savings is no longer there. And in fact, like what you mentioned, right, their mindset is that it is fine. Someone is going to give me something anyway, right? So I'm fine as long as I'm not in debt. I can travel, I can go overseas, I can do whatever I like because I'm not borrowing money. It's my money anyway. So that is the mindset. Is already happening. That is not something which will happen in the future. So they even did a study about all these millennials in the US, and there's so many of the millennials who will be millionaires in the very near future simply because of their parents. Yeah, not because of them, but simply because of the parents. Yeah.
I also think that the challenging part, especially when you see in COVID right now, people have to work from home, work is disrupted per se, traveling to office may not be a requirement. I think housing needs may be impacted by this new normal. What's your thought about the new housing needs for the new generation?
So I guess if you look back at the concept of reasons to own a house, right, a property investment, right? Actually, I always share 4 P's lah. The 4 P's that I always share is that the first one is the price, second one is the people, third one is the policies, that means the government policies, and then the fourth one is the preference. Preference is going to change tremendously. Long time ago, if you remember, long time ago, families used to be big, right? So the house has to be big. So it should be a bungalow, with some gardens, in the rooms, probably, 7, 8, 9, 10 rooms, right? If you look at the family structure of today, actually it's no longer happening like that, right? So where we were once 8 to a house, 6 to a house, today we are 4 to a house. In some advanced countries, it's probably 2 to a house, right? So all this would be the preferences being changing. But of course, Malaysia would not feel it so soon because our median age is just 29. So you will see that right now, the first half, for example, right? Just look at property transaction in the first half and you understand that actually it's all because of preference. The first half transaction, number 1 category of homes being sold is landed terrace, right? So you think about it, why landed, why terrace? Actually, when a family starts to grow, right, the first thing in their mind is, I need a landed property. That's the first thing in their mind. And this is what happened. They didn't landed. Then the second thing is, I couldn't afford a semi-D. So affordability comes. And you remember just now our conversation, we talked about 500,000 and the thereabouts kind of property. Yeah. So these are some of the preferences which are changing because of need and because of affordability. So people are buying further away. Then you think, perhaps Malaysia is so special. Actually, Malaysia is not special. You look at advanced countries, right? The term called suburb is already there for a very long time. It's only that in Malaysia that suburb, what is suburb? They don't really know that well. Then when you tell them it's Rawang, or Sungai Buloh, then they will look at you. That is called far away. But this first half, the data can already tell you that preferences are changing, right? And if you look at how the developments are being done, gated and guarded is a new preference, right? So some time back, people are used to, no gates, no guards. Yeah. Actually, now the gated and guarded is already a preference for many people. And if you look at let's say just 5 years back, clubhouses for townships, the gated and guarded community, they are fine with just gated and guarded community, no clubhouse. Today, every new township would have a gated and guarded, and there's a clubhouse. Yeah, so all these are preferences which are changing. It is not because of you and me. It is because the people who are buying the home usually will have kids. 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 9 years old. They will need a place to, play. They will need a place to have fun. Yeah, so those are some of the things that is happening. Because if I were to move into a place without the clubhouse, for example, it will be tough to live. Especially for me, I cannot think of my kids running around only in the posh area. Actually, I cannot accept that anymore, right? So there has to be some additional places that they can run to. And this is the preference. But if you look at the city center, a lot of all these new high-rise, they are smaller in size, right? And they do have a lot of demand. The reason is very simple. For Malaysia, the urbanization is continuing to happen. And all these people, when they move to KL and they started work, they do not want to stay in a place which is so far away. They want to stay in a place where they wake up at 8, after shower, they can arrive at the office at 8:30. So this is some of the key things that is happening. So if it's a high-rise within the city center and next to a LRT or MRT station or monorail station, for example, those are the preferences which is happening today. And that's the reason why in the city center, small units are fine because it's not for a family anyway. So I mean, long time ago, we always think of, property for the same kind of people throughout. Actually, nowadays is, everyone will have their own needs. Everyone will have their own preferences. And if we understand a little bit more, right, we think a little bit more, then we realize that, Malaysia will be aging society very soon, right? By 2030 or 2035, we'll be an aging nation. That means 7% of our population will be 64 and above. Again, the preferences will be changing. That is why you can see sporadically there are those high-rise or there are developments which are catered to the older folks, right, the seniors. And of course, they are replicating some of these from Australia, some of these from the UK into Malaysia. It is not yet popular simply because we are not yet there, but it's coming, right? Just imagine if I'm already 65, 70 years old, my kids are not around, me and my wife, actually we do not need to stay in a big house. We need to stay in a community where people can, speak to one another, occasionally we can play chess or whatever. There's community where there are activities that can keep our brains thinking rather than sit at home and, just watch TV. I guess that's not the life that I want it to be lah. Yeah, so the demand will come probably even for me, right? In the next 15, 20 years, probably even for me, my preference would change again. Yeah, so all these things developers have to bear in mind as they build. Yeah.
But the other players in the industry, like the banks that offer the financing, because work is going to be very different. The gig economy for the Gen Ys, the short-term duration or short spurts of work and then play, that will really mean that sustainable income or income that is going to come in every month on the 27th of every month is not probably going to be something that's very consistent. Do you think that the present lending packages suffice, or will the banks also need to evolve their loan packages as well to meet the new demand and the new reality?
Yes, so I guess the approval will also have to depend on the type of property and the type of people already. In fact, actually, if you look at how banks are approving today, they are already doing it a little bit different. If you are buying for your own stay, if you're buying for investment, actually the approval is already different. That's the first thing. If you are a salesperson from this industry and a salesperson from this industry, the approval is already different. If your company is less than 3 years and your company is more than 3 years, again, the approval is different, right? So I learned about this in the recent loan application because if your company is less than 3 years, the approval is a little bit different. And if your company is established one, the approval is again different, right? And as you know, the oil and gas previously, a lot of all those people who are from the oil and gas, they may not get the preferential status like previously. So they used to be preferential, right? They always think, wow, oil and gas, huge money, lend to them first. Actually, oil and gas is now being seen as a disadvantage rather than an advantage. So these are some of the things that actually bank is already evolving. It's not that they are not, but probably if you think about them thinking along the lines of millennials versus the Gen X versus the baby boomer, probably not yet, but they are on the type of property, type of company, type of job, they are already evolving actually. Yeah.
Charles, do you think that there's a tremendous overhang for not those properties within the affordable range, or those that are actually deemed affordable, say below 150,000 ringgit, and those that are above 700,000? Do you think these two extremes is going to cause quite a bit of shift in the economy per se? Because if the owner of the asset cannot dispose at that price, they may be forced to actually dispose it at a lower price just to recoup their cost so they can do something else. But because of the volumes, do you think that will really cause a dampener for property prices to increase over the next medium term because of these excesses?
So I guess there's two very, very important questions here. One is the cheaper properties, let's say they below 200,000 ones, right? Actually, I have developer friends who tell me that selling a property, the more expensive ones actually is easier than selling the cheaper ones. The reason is because usually the buyers for 200,000, they may not be able to show that proof of income stability, not proof of income, proof of income stability over a period of time. So it's very hard to get approval for their loan, right? So in fact, one developer friend told me a couple of hundred units had to be sold 2,000 over times because the bank kept rejecting the loan application for these lower end properties, right? So this is already happening even from the primary market. It's not when they reach secondary. So if they're able to get approval and reach the secondary, I think it is okay. But the overhang units today, if you look at a lot of them, the locations actually are not the best kind of location. Somehow it was built because they wanted to build the numbers. If you build because you want to build the numbers, you will be in trouble when you complete it, right? And if you look at the above 750,000, right, above 750, then you compare that to the M40 salary for Malaysians, right? Then you realize, not so compatible. The reason is because people already, like for example, a professional, working professional in the M40, right? They would already be driving a car where the repayment is probably 1,300, 1,400 per month. They're already paying that, right? To ask them to pay another 3,500 to 4,000 for a home is not likely doable with their salary, even at M40, right? So once you see that here and here is not compatible, that's the reason why when we look at properties which are 500,000 and thereabouts, the demand is not that bad, pretty good, right? Just look at the first half transactions, like, wow, very, very good. Then when you look at 750, not that good already because M40 cannot buy. Then when you think about T20, what about T20 then, right? The T20 usually can afford to buy above the 750,000. So unless they are thinking of downgrading a little bit, otherwise they are not actually thinking of buying that range. They will be buying something above that range. Yeah, so that is one of the key thing which is happening in the market right now. So there are properties which are not here and not there. Yeah, but fortunately, if you look at all the new launches, right, I think you can see all the new launches. 750 is very, very uncommon nowadays. A lot of all these developers are calling the properties as starter homes. So it's like 400,000 to 500,000, 500 plus a little bit. Yeah, those kind of sizes, those kind of homes are being built today. So of course the size will have to be adjusted. Instead of the usual 22 by 75, probably it's 20 by 65, probably 18 by 65. Yeah. So those are some of the adjustments that they make in order to reduce the price so that it's at that range that people can buy. Yeah.
Great. Well, Charles, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, sharing also where you see the market headed, and ultimately also sharing how the people can start on their property journey correctly. Most importantly is correctly, because if you make a mistake early on, it's going to be very, very difficult to come out.
Yes, yes.
And if you buy the wrong property or buy a property that you cannot rent out, you cannot live in, you cannot sell and dispose, it's going to be very, very challenging.
Yes. In fact, I have a friend who got the keys to the condo, but he says it's too far away. He prefers to rent a place in nearby the KL city center. So now he's paying rental and paying mortgage at the same time, but staying in just one of it because the other one can't really rent out because too many people are trying to rent out. So yeah, that can be something that can happen as well.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as you hear and listen to this distilled information that Charles Tan has shared, I hope that you make better financial decisions with properties, mortgages, and also selection of how you actually want to look at your next property. Remember, just go and search Copy and Property and you'll definitely find that blog. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe because Charles shares an enormous amount of information. I think the last count was, 4,000 articles or something like that. Charles, would that be right?
It's not 4,004, yeah.
4,004, that could write volumes, ladies and gentlemen. And this is something that you don't want to miss to make sure that you actually, subscribe so that when you have something new that Charles has, you'll definitely be able to get it as well. And whenever Charles speaks next, I'm sure he will also be alerting all those people on his Facebook group so that you can also tune in. All right. Thank you again so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us at Fireside Chat, ladies and gentlemen, and we wish you all the very best in your property journey. Thank you very much.
And bye-bye.